You're tuning into the Journey to Your Best Self podcast, where we explore the past holistic well-being, personal growth, and living a fulfilling life. Each episode, we bring you insightful conversations, practical tools, and inspiring stories to help you integrate your mind, body, and spirit on your journey to becoming your best self. Let's dive in and embark on this journey together. And welcome back to the Journey to Your Best Self podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian O'Neill, joined by my sister, clinical hypnotherapist, certified life coach, and yoga instructor, Tara O'Neill. Today, we are thrilled and blessed to welcome Lisa Morton to the show. Lisa is a certified advanced practitioner of interior alignment Feng Shui, a medicine wheel Feng Shui practitioner, and a Reiki master with over 15 years of experience in interior design. She now focuses on holistic interior design, blending Feng Shui with color psychology and space clearings to help transform homes, businesses, and holistic spaces. We're so excited for Lisa to share with us how energy of a space can profoundly affect our well-being. Anyone out there can utilize some of the strategies, tips that she has and change their space. And we're going to get to a lot of things that if you stick around, listen, and view, you're gonna get a lot out of this episode. So we are super excited to dive into her expertise. This is a topic that we have wanted to discuss, and we haven't really found the right person with the presentation, the qualifications, and the experience and the background to kind of translate some of these topics for our listeners to really understand and utilize. So let's dive right in. Lisa, welcome aboard.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're so grateful.
Absolutely, we are. We had been trying to get this lined up for a couple weeks, and we appreciate you making every effort to be here with us. I just wanted to kind of begin with, I always try to advocate for the uninitiated and people that might not be exactly familiar with Feng Shui or some of these kind of holistic spaces, and then how you try to create some energy with different design things. So, can you give us a little bit, maybe of a primer about Feng Shui, maybe some of the differing forms of it?
Sure. So Feng Shui is over 4,000 years old. It's morphed and transitioned over the years, but it's really aligning your space to create flow, to create balance. So we're so out of balance. We can be so out of balance in our lives, right? We're always on a computer screen. We're always on the go. We're always busy. Maybe we're not balanced in our eating, but our body and our spaces, it's all reciprocal, right? Our body feeds off our space. Our space feeds off the energy of our body. And I have found Feng Shui to be transformative in my own life. I initially, 20 years ago, I found myself just really struggling with anxiety, with depression, with my mental health. I had my dream job. I was designing private jet interiors, fresh out of design school, designing private jet interiors, traveling the world and meeting amazing people and using amazing materials. Then I did not have the tools. I don't know, maybe you guys can understand. Growing up a child of the 80s and 90s, we didn't sit around the dining table talking about stress reduction techniques, right? So
That's where they were created.
Yeah, I didn't really have the tools that I needed. And so then I started yoga, meditation, therapy. I started doing all these things to support myself. And it was funny because I look back at my space now and I was like, wow, my space wasn't supporting me at all. I was struggling so much with just anxiety and being able to get through the day and even sleep was awful. And I look back now, my bedroom was red, right? I had all these things that weren't supporting in my body. And so I really wanted to learn about creating spaces. So it's really, I've created a blend, taking my, interior design, knowledge, years of implementation in residential and commercial spaces, learned about holistic design, creating a balanced space throughout, bringing nature in, and then implementing Feng Shui. And I feel like that's the final piece of the puzzle that really creates, that really supports you as you're going through your life, your day to day.
Yeah, that is so nicely said. Sometimes things are actually just going really well, and it's that little last piece. And it's like, oh, actually, we're all energetic beings bumping into other energies. So that was beautiful. Let's hop into the colors, right? So red, right? So I love red. But I do remember when I was in the classroom teaching, and I had to have some sort of an observation, or my supervisor was coming, I'd always wear red, right? Because the kids were so good. And I knew to an extent it was like that commanding energetic of red, right? So it's like, you want eyes on you, it's like red. So can you talk about how most people at this point, they know some colors are a little bit more soothing. You know, red can be that stark, like grab your attention. What others are you maybe not as common knowledge, or can you even just repeat that more common knowledge of the colors and the impact they might have on our emotions or our perception?
Mm-hmm. Color is so powerful, and I connect color with, I've studied color psychology, color theory, but then also the Feng Shui effects of color, right? So when we can look at this and understand how colors are going to affect our body, how they're going to support our body, then, we can surround ourselves with those colors. We can wear certain colors. I wore blue today because sometimes on an interview, you have to be a little fluid and follow the water element and go with the flow, right? But red is so fun. Red actually lifts your blood pressure. It increases your appetite. But it also, if you're struggling with maybe stress, you're feeling anxious, this is not a great color for you. We want to steer, far away from too much red in our space or near our body. Again, I mentioned blue. Blue is my favorite color. Blue, following Feng Shui, connects to the water element. And it's all about fluidity and creativity and finding flow. And, it's just a really cozy, fluid feeling. And then we have the earth element, which I'm really busy talking to my clients about now. This time of year, going through any type of seasonal change, we can get off kilter a little bit. We can feel a little different, a little off. And connecting with the earth element is so powerful. So this is represented through the colors of beige, tan, browns, those like cozy, warm colors. And it's been extra fun because I've been seeing a lot of brown in clothing stores lately. So it's nice that it's even more available because it's a popular trend. But you can put these colors near your body, surround yourself, bring in some brown throw pillows or some tan or some beige, maybe a throw across the back of your sofa will help you stay grounded during this time of year. I kind of think of the earth element, kind of connect it to like the root chakra. Root chakra, it's like getting your feet down on the earth and like feeling the earth and staying connected. So that's a really, really powerful color. Another color is kind of a surprise to some people that I love to work with is orange. A lot of people don't think of orange, but orange is a really fun color because it lifts our energy, but not quite like red or a bright fuchsia. But it lifts your energy enough, and it's great for conversation. So if I have clients that, they have the teenagers that don't want to escape the bedroom and come talk to mom and dad, we bring in some orange into their space. Orange encourages conversation and flow and discussion. Also, if you want to have a dinner party, orange is really great for that. Bring some orange placemats or orange platters out, and we'll just keep conversation going throughout the night. So just a few of my favorite colors.
Yeah, that's huge. I love the idea of changing the throw pillows, right? So, in your workspace, I'm sure people are sometimes like, well, I can't redesign my whole, living room just based on my mood. But are there any other tips that you could share? And we'll go a little bit deeper into, more of the emotional part. But I love the throw pillow and the blankets because it's a great way to get cozy, especially in we're in fall right now up in New Jersey, and we have those oranges, those tans, like staying grounded, really like cozy, communicating that energetic. So it is really nice that we're able to incorporate that. But I also was out in San Diego for a few years, and I really struggled not being able to have the change of season. And so my body would feel off, even though, everyone was just kind of in summertime mode, what it seemed like most of the year. So, maybe speak to some of that too, even though if someone doesn't get the change of seasons, those little things that they could do.
Hmm. Yeah. I think our bodies crave that cycle. So much what I do is work with my clients following the cycles of nature, right? When we can stay in those cycles, we feel better. And a lot of people contact me now concerned about the winter blast. Oh, Lisa, I know winter's coming. I'm just so upset. I'm concerned I'm going to get the winter blast. Well, it's important to remember that we need this time of winter because then after that comes spring, after that comes summer, and it's just a cycle. We couldn't have summer if we didn't have winter for everything to go back within the earth and reset and then start fresh and bloom the next spring. So that helps, okay? If you're living somewhere where you don't have the seasons, then connect with those seasons. That could be in fall time, bringing out some of those orange-red decor through throw pillows, through candles, through artwork. Again, fun little things. It doesn't have to be a big investment. Just hit up a great resale shop. Or I always say shop your home. I have so many clients that can shop their own home and they can find, check out the basement, check out a hall closet. Maybe you have a yellow candle, a golden yellow candle, which will remind you of fall. In the wintertime, it's important to think about that, we'll see a lot more kind of gray skies, a lot more white where you and I live. But if you're in a climate where you don't see the white snow, maybe bring out a white throw and place it across the back of your sofa to connect with that feeling. Maybe more metal type objects. Anything to just bring in that feeling of winter. Maybe that's a candle that, smell has a scent that reminds you of winter growing up and as a child and you used to go play in the snow and your mother would burn this candle, right? Think about the different ways we can connect with those seasons beyond just seeing it and being in it, because it is important to follow those cycles of nature. And you can do it easily, just small pops, small accents. I a lot of times have a throw on the back of my chair and I'll change it out throughout the seasons. In the summertime, it's warm out and we can warm up easily. So I have a blue throw on the back of my chair to just kind of bring down if it's too warm, if I'm feeling stressed out or anything, because our energy is high in the summertime. And then in the wintertime, when I start to get the winter blast, I have a bright fuchsia throw that I put on the back of my chair. And I might grab it and throw it over my shoulders and just get a little glimpse of the bright pink fuchsia out of my peripheral vision. And that's a great way to connect with the seasons and connect with that flow and that cycle of nature.
Yeah, absolutely. No, for the science-based people, what's happening actually? Like also being an energy worker into Reiki, I kind of can I get a feel for that. But what about people that are like, I don't understand. I don't feel any different when I do this or that. What's actually happening, and how long does somebody have to be in it? And if they don't feel anything, are they very disconnected from their environment?
I think if they're not feeling anything, it's not that they're disconnected from their environment. Sometimes they're just disconnected from their body, right? Sometimes we're just on the go constantly, running to pick up the kids, running to pick up the grocery order, just go, go, go nonstop. And when you can slow down and breathe, when you can take some deep breaths, and you can slow down, and if you have even 5 minutes to slow down and meditate, then you can really start to sense how your body is feeling. And you will sense your body feeling that even more and more as you're in these spaces and around these colors. So, give it a test. You can give it a trial. I always say bring a color into your space, give it 6 weeks. 6 weeks is my time period. Journal. How am I feeling today before I bring this in? Am I stressed out? I heard blue is good, but I don't know. I'm going to give it a go, right? And then mark the calendar for 6 weeks and see how your body feels after that time period of living in that space. We know color affects us. you think about fast food, I always laugh because fast food is always like their signs are like bright red and bright yellow, and it's just screaming, hurry up, come on in and eat, and then get out the door so we can serve the next person. So it's funny to think once you start realizing that, you'll see how color's affecting you in different ways, even driving down the street. How do you feel in your car? What color is your car? What color is the interior? And it can be really mind-blowing to slow down. That's the key, is slowing down to be able to connect and receive and feel that connection, that influence of the color.
Yeah, well, anyway, Brian O'Neill, orange placemat owner. So I've already been cognitively been following your guidance already. One thing I want to ask is kind of a little bit of what Tara was getting at, with people kind of being a little resistant to maybe change in energy or just a feeling. What about just the basics of just them being kind of stubborn, or, not wanting to change colors? They have their favorite setup or scheme or motif that they have their favorite color. They're just the one that always wears black and always has that, right? I had a student that I was handing out different markers, and she got orange, and she was just like, ew, orange. Some people are just reflexive, like, I can't do that color or whatever. So how do you get them to bring down those defenses and give things a try? Or what are some tips for that? People being a little more open-minded.
So I run into this a lot of couples, spouses, one really loves a color and the other one doesn't want a color. Oftentimes I've found over the years picking out paint colors in residential spaces that if someone initially says, I just don't like green, it's because they haven't found the right color of green. There are so many amazing, beautiful colors. I just read that Sherwin-Williams has over 1,700 colors in their basic fan deck. That's a lot of color. So you can, dig, go pale, go medium tone, go light, go something with a cool undertone, go something grayed out. There's so many options. So sometimes it's just you haven't found the right color. I also have a lot of husbands and wives that, they'll go back and forth. And I recently worked with a woman who loved purple. And I believe that if you really crave a color, your body is craving it for some reason. There's something behind it. So find a space. Her husband was not on board with putting purple anywhere, but we created her very own meditation room. They had a spare walk-in closet, nothing in there. She wanted a meditation space. Like, this is perfect. We painted it purple. The most beautiful, soft purple color. We had candles, we had beautiful lighting. We put some twinkle lights in the corner. It was really pretty. So she has her purple space. Husband doesn't have to get upset about it. The other thing to think about is how you can see these colors throughout. So say you like green, but your partner's not on board. Well, make sure you open the windows. Look at the bushes. Look at the shrubbery. Get artwork with maybe some trees painted on that, and that's your green. Or the same with blue. Open the windows, the sky is blue. Or artwork. It doesn't have to be a blue throw pillow. There's other subtle ways that we can bring in these colors, and that helps. But again, I feel like if you are craving a color, there's something about it your body really, really wants. I know sometimes I crave yellow, and yellow is a very good color because it's very grounding. It's connected to the earth element that I talked about earlier. It's very grounding and centering, but it has a higher energy than, say, brown. It's not red, it's not orange, it's down, and it's really good for focus. Yellow is actually my favorite color for a home office. We can paint your office a yellow color. I had an office years ago, and I experienced this firsthand, and it made me fall in love with yellow. So we'd moved into a new house, and I had my home office room figured out, but it was yellow. And I'm like, I'm not a yellow person. And then I started working in it, and I discovered just how focused I could be. And this was also the time I was beginning my studies into Feng Shui. So it was really fascinating to experience it firsthand, how yellow can help you focus and be grounded with having clear, steady focus.
Yeah, that was a great answer. So I love that, really giving them the option to go find the color if they can't get a compromise with their spouse or partner, or maybe it's just not practical. If you're renting or something, your options may be limited, right? For changing the actual space that you live in.
Sure.
But going out there and find the
I will
colors.
say there are a lot of really great, fun, removable wallpapers these days. And they
Oh,
work,
nice.
they look great, they have great
Okay.
patterns, and they remove great. Your landlord will not object.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you got all the answers.
Yeah,
You're
right?
not going to take no for an answer.
Yeah.
You have all the options for them.
You've thought of everything. Let's go back to the basics of Feng Shui. And most people think of their home as needing to little Feng Shui. So maybe we'll take it in two directions. First, let's visit the home Feng Shui, and then maybe our personal space Feng Shui. So before I looked into it and researched it a bit, studied it a little bit, I realized that I needed space. Like I was suffocating. There were things, and things were in the way, and I felt cluttered. And so when I, purged a little bit of that, I started to feel lighter. So that's something pretty basic. But maybe, how would you explain it to somebody that has never really heard too much about it? And also, I will preface with it's for everyone. I remember the first time that I heard of Feng Shui, it was from a friend of mine who was a scientist. And I'm like, you can't like Feng Shui. Like, that's not science. Like, you go to the lab every day. And she was really, certified in it and she taught it. So, I want to dispel the woo in it. And so take off from there.
So often people think it's just superstition, right? Turn around twice, pat your head, rub your belly, and something will happen, right? That's not what it is. So you said it's over 4,000 years old, and it's been studied, and we can see cycles, we can see repetition, we know how things move. I also I'm a very intuitive person, so I know I've been doing this for years. I just didn't know the word for it. I didn't know how to describe it until I learned about Feng Shui. But what's really fun is if you think about walking into your front door and energy flowing in through your front door, think about how it would flow. Think about it flowing like water. Is it going to flow nice and meandering around the furniture and it feels really nice? Or is it like that raging river at the water park, right? Too much stuff, too much clutter. Clutter makes us feel stuck. It can bring on stagnation. It doesn't help flow throughout your space. So we want to create spaces that have flow, that have room to move, but also it's filled equally with just enough things to support our body. We like soft, rounded corners, nothing sharp coming at our body for a long period of time. We work with the 5 elements, as I mentioned, wood, fire, earth, water, and metal. And we use these 5 elements to create balance in a space, okay? We use them through colors, patterns, textures, shapes, different designs can bring in these 5 elements. And then another important aspect of Feng Shui is using what's called a Bagua map. So I kind of, if people have a hard time understanding the Bagua map, it's a map that has 9 different energy centers. But think about if you're yogi and you've heard of the chakra system, right? You have these energy centers of your body. Well, your home also has these various energy centers. So we can focus on your health. We can focus on what you do day to day, what you get up and go do every day, your career, you're a PTA mom, and that's your focus. If you volunteer, if you go to a job and you're an accountant every day, right? We can focus on that. We can get into your wealth and abundance if you're looking to bring in more wealth and abundance into your life. I've been doing a lot of work with relationships. There is an energy center connected to relationships. So this could be a relationship with yourself, self-love, a partner, a spouse, also just your coworkers, your neighbors, your family members, any relationships that you have in your life. So we can tweak spaces, we can add cues into your spaces to bring more things into alignment. So it's also, I hate to use the word manifestation because it just seems so overused these days, but it's bringing cues into your space to help you align with those goals. So we're making you feel better, we're making you just better day to day, but then also working towards whatever you're looking at, whatever your goals and dreams and wishes are.
That's awesome. I just want to ask, well, we're hitting a lot where you have so much like good advice that we're hitting. And I have one, right off the bat that I wanted to get to, before we get more in depth. You go into someone's home, they're Lisa, need your help. I don't know. Or no, maybe, I feel like it's more of like an intervention. Someone's like, oh man, this, my brother, his place is a mess, or, my husband won't let me move anything around, or whatever it is. When you walk in somewhere, even if it's not for a client, even if you're just a guest somewhere, you happen to be going somewhere, what is one or two things that just make you like tense up and be like, oh no, they didn't. They have not gotten the Lisa Morton treatment, obviously, because this is not working out at all. What are those first two things that that if you're getting, even if you're just getting started, you have to change ASAP?
Oh my gosh. Well, two things. One is cacti are not our friends. Okay. I love plants. Plants are wonderful. And I'm sorry if you have a cactus. I'm so sorry.
There was like, I always try to anticipate answers. That wasn't it. That
Well,
wasn't on
I was
my
thinking like full
card at all
wall.
of it.
Yeah, I
So we love plants. Plants
Okay.
connect to the wood element of Feng Shui. It brings us growth and renewal and rejuvenation and harmony and moving forward. And we want soft, leafy, plants like a fern, Imagine feeling a fern. It's soft. It feels so nice. We want something like that. A cacti is spiky. And in Feng Shui, we have this thing called poison arrows. We don't want these sharp points coming at our body for long periods of time, or really ever, but especially long periods of time. And so that's the first thing I normally tell people, and they get all upset because they have this favorite cacti. But cactus are just not your friend, okay? It's quick, it's easy. Move on.
That's
Find a
amazing.
place slowly to replace it. The second thing that I see a lot that I think makes a huge impact, and that I follow myself when I just go to a restaurant or anything, is finding that command position. So this is when our body is in its most supported state. We have a solid wall behind us and we can see in front of us. So the ancients believed that, you had this mountain behind. They would build their homes. They had the mountain behind for protection, but they could see their enemies in front. And having this protection not only just like lets your shoulders drop and you take a bigger breath and you can relax, it just helps us be even more productive. So I see this often. I see especially home offices. If you're sitting there working facing a wall and your back is exposed, this isn't putting you in the command position. And I just worked with someone and he was having a lot of troubles with his business. Things were going on behind his back, literally. So we turned him around so he could see. Plus, there's a beautiful view out the window. So if you absolutely can, try somehow to make it so your back is to a wall and you have an open view in front of you. And once you start doing this, kind of like sensing the colors. Once you start doing this, you'll notice it. Like, I don't like being at a restaurant when I can't have my back to a wall. I might specifically ask for a table because I know I'll feel great, especially if it's an important meeting or if I'm presenting. I always want a solid wall behind me to support me. This is, again, like I said, like the colors, you'll start sensing it, you'll start feeling it, and it's really supportive. Those are my two big things.
That is so
Excellent.
huge. Thank you so much. I mean, if there's any takeaway from this episode, that would definitely be huge. And I working with people somatically also, when they go to sit, I tell them to look around, look behind them, because just that little element of subconscious safety is going to do wonders. And I'm so glad you said that, because there is a lot of open concept in our architecture now, right? And that's good and it looks good, but you got to also be in tune with how you're feeling when there is a lot of stuff going on behind you. But that is so huge. And also, Brian's teaching. And so some kids, they don't like to sit where there's people behind them or there's nothing behind them. And that can be an easy fix for people, for students, right? Just have that behind a wall behind them to make them feel comfortable. And when you're comfortable, you're more productive, right? You're more present. So
Certainly.
That's such a great tip. And I feel better that my cacti passed a few years back.
Okay.
They were from my grandmother, and I felt devastated because they got all moldy. But now, like, you have restored my guilt in not having them continue. So thank you. That was
always
another
take
great
that
one.
pot, and find a new beautiful plant for that pot. You can still remember the pot.
what is the rule, not rule, but what is good in terms of bringing nature into the home? Because we're big proponents of nature here on Journey to Your Best Self. How can we bring a plant in? How many? Where do we put it? Can we put one on our nightstand, or is that too close? If we were putting one in our living room, how big? Do you have any tips on bringing some nature into it that people today can do?
Sure. Our bodies crave nature. So many of us are stuck inside in office buildings and cubicles. Some people don't even see daylight, right? Especially during the winter months. So it's important to bring nature in. And in recent years, so many people have gotten so many plants, and they send me pictures. We start working together and they're so excited to send me pictures of all their 500 plants on the wall, right? And we do want plants. But like I said, we want balance. So too much of a wood element, that vertical growth, that onward and upward moving forward sensation, feeling that energy. If you have too much, it can bring feelings of frustration, right? So we want balance. So I recommend no more than 3 plants per room. And this can kind of vary depending on the size, if you have one giant plant or if you have maybe a collection of 5 or 6 small little succulents, right? But generally, no more than 3 plants per room. I also don't really recommend any in the bedroom. For me, I'm a light sleeper, and I don't sleep well when there's much energy lift at all. So I don't recommend any plants in the bedroom. You experiment, try that 6 weeks. Move it out for 6 weeks, see how it feels. Your body might be okay with it. But I do have a fun little thing. It's an ancient practice of Feng Shui that's jade by the door, pour no more. So if you're looking to bring some wealth and abundance into your life, bring a jade in and place it by your front door. You can also, I love doing anything with the front door because it is such an important space. So bringing plants, decorating, enhancing that area as much as you can is really important. But yeah, plants, not too many.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's great. And that's the thing. Like, we love, we can overdo anything, even a good thing. So with the front door, huge energy center, or where a lot of it will enter, people that use the side door, should they use the front door, or should they make the side door their front door, or even a back door? People that have apartment living or those types of things, they can still do these practices. How do we tweak those?
So the front door, so many of us, we come in and go through the garage, right? And they're like, I haven't used my front door in 2 years. Well, that is the symbolic front door of your home. So when we apply this energy map, we use your front door, your built front door, the architectural front door of your home, to lay out everything else. And it's really important, even if you don't currently use it, to start using it. I just worked with someone and we came up with a plan, because a lot of people are like, I don't have a use. We go in and out the back door, the garage. Come up with something. Make an excuse to use it. We want that door opening. That front door brings in new opportunities, and we don't want to miss those. We want those coming right on in towards us. So use the front door. Walk your dog. I just worked with the woman and we decided she was going to walk her dog every day. So she put the leashes in the closet near the front door, and the treats and the bags and everything. Or maybe go out and get your mail through the front door. This, again, it's considered this really important energy center. We call it the mouth of chi, or the mouth of energy coming into your space. So everything comes in through your front door and then continues throughout. And we consider the back doors, the side doors, the windows, the eyes and ears, right? We want everything to come in, but we do have to release things in life. We have to let things go. Sometimes we're done with a part of our life, with an aspect of our life, or an object, a throw pillow in our home. We do have to let things go, right? So we also want to make sure that those windows and side doors are functioning well also. So keep that front door functioning well lit, a fresh doormat, nice and swept up, cleaned up. Make sure your home number, your address is visible, because I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a new client's home, driving up and down the street, and the bushes are overgrown and you can't see it. So
Wow.
love on the front door.
so many questions, but people will just have to hire you. A couple things that maybe are not known, inner world, outer world, right? People are going to be like, all right, so I cleaned out my garage, my shed, my storage unit, the kids' old toys. How is that possibly going to change my mental state? Like, how is that going to make me, any clearer, any less stressed, any less overwhelmed? Do you have a way to explain that in a metaphor, just straightforward?
Sure. Clutter just takes up space, right? We're reacting to that box of clutter in the corner of the room, whether we realize it or not. We think about when you go to a hotel. It's a new hotel room. You've never been there before. You walk in, you're like, oh, look at that wild carpet pattern, or look at the art on the wall. Oh, wow, look at those draperies. I mean, maybe some of the guys don't do that, but some of the women do, or you might notice the view, right? But we don't do that in our homes. When was the last time you walked in your front door and you did this, right? So we're just so used to our space that we don't pick up on these subtle things that are still impacting the subconscious, that are still impacting our body. So I have a little practice that I share with my clients. If you're open, I always tell people to go on a walk. Go on a walk in the evening, reset, take some deep breath, and come back to your front door. I want you to walk through your front door as if you were a guest. And what do you see? Again, you have to get really grounded, clear your head from your day. What do you see? Your mind might be blown by some of the things you're looking around. It's also interesting to note how you flow throughout your space. If you're really feeling like a guest, are you invited in? Do you want to proceed forward? Are you kind of steered towards a certain room because there's really bright colors, or it's dark in another area so you don't go there? It's really fascinating to kind of pick up on this.
Yeah, I that's so true. I love that. That's something that we all can do and have fun with it, right? Like have your kids do it too, right? And then, you could say, hey, I don't want your toys there anymore. And they might be like, well, I don't like your paperwork there. Whatever it might be, make it fun. But I would do this activity with my clients sometimes, and I'll say, I want you to imagine a vacation, just going to the most beautiful place ever. You're gonna check into this gorgeous resort, all expenses paid. And I want you to imagine somebody sent all of the things in your attic or your basement there. So when you get there, you open up the door and all of your stuff from your basement or your attic is there. How do you feel? Do you want to keep that stuff? Right? So it is that subconscious stuff we don't realize we're taking with us, whether or not we actually see it every day doesn't mean it's not there.
Exactly. And I work with a lot of people to find that one thing, because sometimes it isn't everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that one thing that's standing in our way. That box with those really important papers you've been putting off going through for 3 years. Maybe it's
Yeah.
not a whole garage of clutter. Maybe it's that one box. So when you can
That's a
find
really
that, it can be
point,
so big.
right? It's like not wanting to all the things in the attic or the basement. It's not about 90% of it. It's that one that's like, well, how am I going to feel when I open that up? And usually there's an emotional element, a sentimental value or grief. So how I'm sure you come across that in your work. How do you approach that? And we don't realize how much our emotion is connected to things. So when someone,
Yeah.
is cleaning something out, how an emotion comes up, do you have people sit with it, meditate? How do you move that energy?
Yeah. I think slowing down and doing that, I work with a lot of people. Will do a little meditation prior to really connect with what kind of energy our body wants, right? Does that item connect with your future and what you want, or does it not? There's also just kind of some practical ways to think about it. Like, when someone gives you a gift, they don't expect you to keep it forever, right? Sometimes you can take photos of things. That's a great way. You can put it on your wallpaper on your phone and look at it every day versus having it stored away in a closet, right? You can really enjoy it versus just having it packed away. But just really being mindful of what you have and how you can let it go. It's so important to remember that you can make space for new things. It's something I work with a lot of people that struggle with stagnation. They're stuck. That's a big reason people call me. There's a few things, illness, divorce, stagnation. There's also really fun things like starting a new business, they're getting ready to have children, grow their family. There's great things, right? But there's a lot of heavy, I'm stuck in this old pattern in my life. How do I get past it? And a lot of it is sometimes their belongings. And we just have to notice what's in our way. We also have to notice some of those areas that we avoid. This can also, if you have a room that's closed up, you haven't been in there in 6 months, the blinds are drawn, the lights are off. This also causes an imbalance in our home and stagnation because there isn't flow throughout the entire home. I really encourage people to think of their home as not just this place to crash, not just a box, but it has an essence to it. Right? It has an energy to it. And when you think about it, you want it flowing, you want it moving, you want to connect with every space. So try to avoid having those spaces that are just neglected, the door's closed, the lights are off, and you wonder why you're stuck, right? We need to keep everything moving.
Yeah,
That's great.
That's wonderful. I think of, do you remember Friends, growing up in the 90s? Monica had that room of all of her appliances and her cleaning supplies that like somebody opened and all the things came like pouring out, right? And so sometimes these rooms do have a reflection of something in our inner self that we don't feel we've had completion, or we haven't grieved, or we feel insecure about. So it is a great clue, and it is, almost like your body's your temple, but so is your home. Let's take it to, what if somebody has processed some things and they've purged a lot, but there's like 2 or 3 really ridiculous things they want. I'm not saying this might be more of a man thing, but it's like, I really want this, thing from, my college reunion, I won this medal, that's great. Where do they put it? And like, I'm sure you have some people that are like, no, I have to hold on to this. So it's like, how can we use that to an advantage? Be like, yeah, of course you can keep it. Let's utilize it for the new versions of you, or to welcome in new energies at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Well, think about if they really want to keep it. Why? What does it represent? What is the energy behind it? What does it remind them of? And when you can go deeper, that can help you understand maybe where the most ideal place to store it is. My husband is like perfect example. He has these action figures from when he was a kid, and he's 45 and still has these things. They go in his office. They make him, when he needs a lighthearted moment, he has these action figures over on a shelf, right? So that's an example of, if you are really in love with something, you really want to keep it, keep it. If it's important to you, if it's supporting you in the direction you want to go, that's the key. Is it sending you where you want to go? I mean, Feng Shui is constantly happening with everything we're doing in our space. Is it going in a good direction or a not so good direction? That's important.
Right, absolutely. Because there are people at all ends of the spectrum where I might throw it out because I don't want to process it, right? So I might not look at it, and it's just going to come back in some other way, right? So there's 2 parts, right? We might not want to let go of something. We might not want to look at something either. And one more question, I'll pass Brian the mic. What about too much prana, right? So somebody that's a super minimalist, and it's just like, there maybe not be enough grounding energy. I know, when I'm working with a client in an office, for example, putting a little table in between so there's not this stark energy that's laser focused. Can you explain the importance of that as well, right? Yes, most people need a little bit more, but what if it's too busy? How do we calm it down?
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting because there's a big interior design trend right now of maximalism as well as minimalism, which is kind of funny because they're just polar opposites. But, I'm more of a minimalist. I like clean lines, simple. But then I know a lot of people who are that maximalist, and they have the leopard rug and the pink sofa and the crazy art, and that's what their body craves. When I go, I actually have a friend who's like that, and it's a beautiful space. I know I can't spend a really long time in that space. So I will do extra things for my body. I will wear certain colors, right? I might carry a grounding stone in my pocket. I might take a few breaths before I go in to make sure I'm grounded and centered. Um, so, some people really find that maximalism, they're just naturally a higher energy and they love the bright colors. Other people really crave that minimalism. So it's your space, but you always want to be mindful of if you're inviting people in, what is it saying to them? Is it saying, you have to live in my world and it's going to be neon green everywhere? Or maybe, there's an area you have guests often and you can tone it down into, like you had mentioned, the round table. Round tables, circles are really great. Rounded furniture will help soften versus having bright, bright colors, angular shapes. We want to create a comfortable space for our guests. The same with the minimalist. If you have just nothing to look at, some people might feel a little awkward.
Definitely, definitely.
That's true. So is there a way to, I mean, I've heard a lot about kind of attracting energy and kind of balancing and being fluid and being receptive. Is there a way that you can create, set up to keep things out if you wanted to be protective? Because you were talking about the door and the door being open and inviting and everything, but is there some things you can do to keep negative or low energies or bad energies away, or is that using feng shui for the wrong reasons?
No, I think we all want to have a protected home. I mean, I know I do different aspects to my home to be protected. I like to have the front entrance and all the entrances well lit. I also love to incorporate rocks and crystals. I'm a rock lover, so I love to incorporate rocks and crystals. I love selenite. I put a piece of selenite in the four corners of my home to create a grid of protection over my home. It might vary depending on clients, and what their layout is. Because it's not just the home. We look at the land going around as well and how that's supporting the space and how that's supporting you. So we might vary stones, some black tourmaline or some smoky quartz or amethyst or something around the property to also bring an energetic effect. Plus, it's just earth. It's more earth, and it makes us feel good. So there also is, we want to be mindful of having certain things belong in more private areas, right? We don't always want everything out for show for everybody to see, for any guest. We do have certain things, like I have a cabinet that's very important to me. It was my grandmother's. She's been gone for many years, but it's in my office space and no one gets to see it but me. And sometimes I might even literally touch it and just kind of feel that connection. Maybe, I might just feel that energy of my grandmother because I loved her so much. And so we have those special things, and they do belong in more private, more quiet areas for just you to have that connection with.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That leads me to the next question of an energetic space for prayer or meditation or contemplation. Can you explain the importance of that and how that helps us to stick to a practice, and also how that's kind of our home frequency where we can tap into how we're feeling?
Mm-hmm. By setting up a space for gentle yoga, for meditation, or something like that, it helps us in the practice, especially if you're new to the practice. So if you're not into yoga meditation yet, I encourage you to get into it. But here's a way to think about it if you're maybe a little more analytical. With my people that have home offices, in recent years, so many people are working at home now. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm having a hard time dividing family, work, all this. And so we set up a routine. And I do this myself. I have a home office. I go in, I turn the lights on, I open the blinds, I pull my chair out, I light my candle, I turn on my music, I sit down, I work. When I'm done at the end of the day, turn my music off, blow out the candle, close the blinds, in that same order. And that gets your body cued, it's work time. And then it cues you down, it's family time. I'm done working, because a lot of us know if you work from home, it's easy, I'll just run up and type one more email out, right? The same with these beautiful slowing down practices of meditation and prayer, journal, yoga. When we can go into a room, we turn on the twinkle lights. Maybe we turn on the diffuser to our amazing scent filling the space. it helps our body switch into that mode so much easier and so much faster. And it just feels more ceremonial. I'm a big believer of creating ceremony out of everything. I'm cleaning my house and I have pretty music on and a candle lit and I'm sweeping with a mantra in mind, right? So when you can do that, it just makes everything feel more special and just you can move into that space so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. We are definitely a big proponents of that. Ritual is sometimes half of the actual change, the habit change or new task that you're taking on or new habit. Um, we ask this to everyone, and there's a wide spectrum. It can be nonfiction or fiction. Is there a book that you recommend for people that are starting out on their journey? What they could even be advanced to? What's one of yours that was like, you could go back and you could read it, or maybe you do read it, every so often?
So I trained in Denise Linn's interior alignment, and she has a book called Sacred Spaces. It gets into space clearing, but also brings in all kinds of, just different aspects to look at your home and really see it with a different set of lenses, to really see it as this beautiful sacred space to support you. I really love that one. I do have another one, but it's out of print. Once in a while, you can find it at a used bookstore, but it's Feng Shui with what you have.
Oh.
And it was written by a teacher I studied with years ago, and it's out of print, but I love that book because a lot of people think Feng Shui has to be this huge investment. They're going to have to remodel, but oftentimes it's literally, like I said, shopping your home,
right,
or just finding one or two little things to switch around. Sometimes it's the chair directional, one way, and then we move it to another way and it completely transforms. So if anyone pops into a used bookstore, you might be able to find it. So Sacred Spaces and Feng Shui with what you have.
I love it. Thank you so much. And then last question from me, I would be, I almost forgot. Sage. It could be a little controversial, but these clearing aspects of these elements like sage, like Palo Santo, like using crystal is a little different because there's no scent, but how does that help? Should we use it? Is it not really necessary? Is it appropriate? I know it's a personal choice, but what are your suggestions?
So I recommend space clearing your home. I do it every quarter. I do it for people. Sometimes we'll do it, but they're going through a big life event and they don't have it in them to do it, or they just need like a really good clearing. I go in a little deeper and kind of communicate with your home. It's a whole different, aspect to it. But doing, our homes collect with stuff. Emotions. If you had an argument with your spouse, it collects. Illness. So everybody's like, is my house haunted? Not necessarily. Sometimes it's just junk, right? Stuff from life because we live life. And we need to clear that out. It's just like clutter. We need to clear it out and make space. So you can burn, different items. I personally like sound tools. I wasn't a fan of space clearing until I learned about sound tools and singing bowls. And I found this really cute bell that I use a lot at an antique store because sound vibrates. We want that sound to vibrate throughout the space. And I think sound, I'm not a musician, but I can hear it, right? Burning items is not necessarily my favorite thing, but there's so many tools. Also, people often forget water. Water is powerful at shifting energy. You can get a little spray bottle and add some essential oil and mist it around to reset the energy of your space. So get creative. Don't feel like you have to just burn sage because some people, they just don't like the smell. And I'm like, I'd rather you resonate and like love the tool you're using than feel forced.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And to the point with the sound, you can just go on YouTube and play ohms for, an hour. That's going to help move that sound, like you said, sound with clearing.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Better yet, though, to actually ohm. That would be like a double whammy.
Yeah, that is definitely one that we love to ask, and is just, again, you surpassed expectations with that great answer. One of the things that I am kind of investigating and curious about is locations. And we have an episode coming out about these vortexes and these high energy locations around the world. Has there been any place in your travels, a city, a state, a country, somewhere you saw on a documentary, online, somewhere where, whether it was the architecture, whether it was the geography, whether it was maybe just the community, that you just felt like, wow, they just innately have this this way that they've built and shaped things, and it flows, and the balance is there, and it would, maybe without even trying, it just worked that way over generations, or for whatever reason. Is there somewhere that you like to travel, or that you went through or heard about or saw, even if it's a specific building, or somewhere that was set up by an engineer or by an architect, or by a designer like yourself, that you really appreciated?
I've always loved. I used to do a yearly retreat to Sedona. I'd go by myself. I'd go,
Oh,
go
that
hiking.
was on the bingo card.
I'm
That's
like,
on Tara's bingo
oh,
card.
and like sitting meditating on a mountain crying, and it's a beautiful experience. So definitely exploring Sedona, but I have to say my favorite place is going to the middle of nowhere, Canada. My husband's family have a lake cottage, but it's like 3 hours north of Toronto. It's like way up there, and you have to get on the fishing boat to get to the island where it's just a little cabin, little fishing cottage, and it's the most, you can just breathe different there. It's so untouched. You see maybe one other boat all day. It's so incredibly remote. I mean, you're driving and driving and driving down like a gravel road. It sounds so bizarre, but it's so incredibly peaceful. You don't see planes, up in the sky. You don't see electrical wires. You don't hear sirens. You don't hear any of that. And your nervous system can reset in such a different way. I kind of think, like those deprivation tanks, and you get in and everything. It's taking away all that, and it's just peace. And you hear the bird chirping and the squirrel, and that's all that's happening. It is just magical. We don't get to go often, but when we do, it's just like, oh my gosh. You never want to leave.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for
Absolutely.
everything that you've shared with us. Any last suggestions, and of course, sharing?
So there's so many amazing, great tips that we can do, right? I can throw out tips all day. My podcast is just fun tips.
Okay.
But remember, your home, the layout of your home, where your home is on the plot of land, where your home is at in the world, what hemisphere you're in, as well as your family. Do you have kids? Do you have pets? Do you have cats?
Right.
Do you have dogs? Everything's completely different. So just because something applies to your neighbors doesn't mean it applies to you. So that's why it's so important to look at your own specific space, how you use it. We're a melting pot of people. We have different traditions and beliefs and routines about our day. So it's really important to look at your specific space. But I think you can implement so many of these fun, easy tricks. If we go back to where we kept talking about slowing down, maybe creating that meditation space. And after a couple weeks of getting into that meditation space, you'll walk in and you'll feel like, oh, that chair's too close. It needs to move back a little bit. And you'll start noticing yourself.
That's amazing. And then you think that, the great thing is you make it seem like, anyone can kind of, figure this out eventually. They work with you and they kind of get themselves into the right, body, mind, spirit state. It's possible. It's not out of, they can change, and they can implement a lot of what you're talking about if they get.
Certainly. I've worked with a lot of clients who have gone through heavy things and they're ready for new things in their life. I mean, one of the most influential moments of my life was probably 8 years ago. I'd studied this already for many years. I was implementing it, and I had a woman call me, and I get to her house and we did a quick walkthrough just so I could get my bearings on the space. And then we sat at the dining table, and she looked across the table from me and said, Lisa, I'm dying. I need you to help me prepare my home so my kids and my husband can go on living when I'm gone. So I go through a lot of big experiences like that, and it's so impactful. Our spaces are not just a box. I guess that's always my message, to really connect with your space and know that it's there to support you, and you can call on it to support you, right? When you can slow down and connect with it, then you can call on it when you need.
That's awesome. Really a profound way to end this. Where can we find all those tips and all that guidance and that realignment and then that balancing from you online? Is there a site? Where should they follow you? Where are your most active socials? Let our listeners know, and we'll put everything in the show notes as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. You can find me at purelivingwithlisamorton.com. That's Morton, Pure Living with Lisa Morton. I also have a podcast called Feng Shui Living, Tips for Busy Women, 25-minute episodes, just fun, easy things you can implement tomorrow to make your space feel better. I also do a color mastery class. The next one is November 18th. I do them kind of every other month. And it's a great way to kind of dip your toe into this world if you're not really sure. We just talk color and we explore color and how it affects our body. And it's free and it's fun. So check it out.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Lee. Pleasure meeting you, learning from you, and keep in touch. We'd love to do it again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Journey to Your Best Self podcast. We appreciate you being part of this community. For more resources, insights, and ways to connect, head over to youroneself.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and Overcast. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, keep aligning your mind, body, and spirit, and peace, love, and self-discovery.